They need to ask their opponent every time, are you for full-term abortion? Are you for
But
third-term?
that's where we're going, right?
Yeah,
That's what we need to be. That's what we need to be doing.
and we're not. We're not. That's why we're losing. We got to ask them that. Ask them that. Remember they say that because yes, 75% of people want some sort of abortion, but also 80% of people don't believe in third-term abortion.
Exactly. You can't have. So here's what we have. We've got up to birth abortion in New York
In New
State.
York and California.
People don't understand what that is, what it looks like, or anything. I put something on Twitter the other day that shows a video of what they do in late trimester abortions. Now that was just like third trimester. We're not talking about ready to give birth.
And if that baby's born and he's still alive or he's dying,
that's a whole other thing.
They keep them comfortable.
They have laws not here anymore. They used to have the law where if the baby comes out, and I think they've got this in some other states, and the baby is still alive, that you have to attempt to resuscitate the child.
That's what you're supposed to do to any
you know, that's good. So the question is, and this is the scary part, at what point do we declare it of life? Can we at least, at smallest, if the baby is able to be term and live, can the baby have a chance?
Exactly.
You know. Oh, here we go.
Put your headphones on. Doing a disclaimer, so get ready.
Hey everyone, it's the old Walt inviting you to join me Monday, October 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a Halloween special episode of the Music and Magic Show where I'm going to rebroadcast the original Mercury Theater production, H.D. Wells.
Yes.
That's what you look on it. Yeah, left, right, play.
And narrated of the man Orson Welles. Again, only on Rochester Free Radio. WRFZ 106.3 FM LP.
Stay close to the mic.
Hey everybody, and welcome to The Divide, as we try to fill that divide with common sense again. I'm Marcus C. Williams, and I'm here filling in for Brian today as he's off to go save the world and hunt some dragons. Let's see what he brings us back for next week. So, this has been made possible by Mac Remodel and Repair. Make sure that you give them a shout out if you need some assistance. 585-802-0757. And they'll give you a free estimate. Check them out today. All right, so we're here and we're going to talk about a little bit of everything. So I hope you guys that are out there in streaming land can actually hear me. I don't know how the audio is working out there, but I'll try to make that happen. And thank you all who are listening on, through the airwaves, right? We still have those. So here in America, we've got a constitution. It's a great constitution, a constitution that enables us to have many rights that are inalienable. And those inalienable rights are right in the beginning of our constitution. We call them the Bill of Rights. Can I get an amen and a hallelujah on that one? Thank the Lord that we have those rights, because many other countries don't have those type of rights at all. We've got one of my favorites, which is the First Amendment, which enables you to have free speech, free religion, and actually redress your grievances with your elected officials. Now, the issue with elected officials is as well, hey, do they even listen when you try to redress your grievances? And I'd like to talk about that a little bit today. We've seen many things on the international level going crazy with politics. We've got wars all over the land and everywhere else. We've got total social upheaval in many parts of the country, including in our own backyard. We just had a weekend, not even 2 weekends ago. We just had a free Palestine protest in the city of Rochester. And you know, the crazy thing is, it was led by a bunch of communists and socialists, as well as people that are parts of other organizations that don't have any business being a part of these type of activities. We're talking about activities like people who care about the climate and that are a member of different climate groups that are out there protesting to free Palestine when they're supposed to be representing things like the climate. Speaking of that, we saw Greta Thunberg over the weekend get interrupted at a protest rally that she was doing by a gentleman who was very contemptuous of her spouting off about politics in relation to the Middle East. And he got up on the stage and tried to take the microphone from her and said, I came here for a demonstration about climate change, not about politics. This is something that I see continue to happen more and more, especially on the local level. And it's why I've stepped back from some of the stuff that I've done in the past and certain groups that I've been affiliated with because, it's great to be about the environment. But when you're starting to get mixed up in all of these socialist activities, it's not good and it's not the same. And it really starts to take away from your whole point and anything that you want to say about the environment. But I'm glad that we got a second to talk about the environment because if we're talking about the environment, we should really talk about the environment. Let's take some time and actually do that today. We've got this crazy push for complete electrification of all vehicles in America. It's nice. It would be nice if all of the vehicles in America ran on electric in a perfect world and electric was the best way to transport products and everything like that and everything was super efficient. But can we be honest about where we stand as a nation that we are just not quite ready for that yet? And the fact that we're not actually talking about this as an issue just goes to show that do we even really care? Do we really care? You've got all of these green groups out here, electrify this, electrify that. Well, I'll give you, for instance, in Rochester, New York, where we're broadcasting from, which is my home, we have an old, antiquated, ancient, even, like antiquated is a generous term for it, ancient electric network. It's so bad that a large portion of homes in the city of Rochester still have rat tail wire in them. Now, if you don't know what rat tail wire is, you think of yarn, right? That's the best way I could describe it if you don't know what it is. Think of like yarn wrapped around wire for electricity instead of like the general like plasticish rubber coated wires that you're used to see, you know? So those wires are like back from the not the turn of the last century, but the turn of the previous century. And we have to really be honest with ourselves about what's going on and what's happening and what can be done. Now, that's just the wires inside many houses. If we look at the actual wiring in our infrastructure for that, we can't even support barely what we have right now on the electric grid, more or less putting on electric buses and putting on all this electric vehicles and all these extra pulling because we're not here's the deal, right? Like it's nice to make everything electric, but where are we going to get that energy from? We're not period. Because now here's the interesting conceptualization. If we're going to have all of these different things go electric and the concept is to make it and I don't even honestly know what to call it, right? So they say energy efficient, or they'll say carbon neutral, or they'll say net zero, or they'll say all of these other fanciful things, which really honestly mean half of nothing because what is the concept that you're all delivering? Because they all mean something different. And nobody really knows. It's just buzzwords and jargon when you're talking about stuff like that. And it's something that we really need to cut through and break into. So let's just talk about wind power and solar power. That's fine. You want wind power and you want solar power, I got you. Perfectly fine. Perfectly understandable, right? That's what you've been told is good. Wind power is great, and solar power is the dynamic, bestest thing in the universe and sliced bread that's gonna save us all. Except even outside right now during the day, it's still kind of cloudy, you know, and like I'm joking, but I'm dead serious. Can we be real about wind and solar right now? Can we take a couple of seconds? Just take a couple of seconds with me. I'm going to paint you a very interesting picture. So let's just say we put all these new wind and solar projects out. Fair enough. However, at the same time they're trying to put these wind and solar projects out, they're shutting down all of the gas plants and all of the nuclear plants and everything else that's generating energy. So as these new plants come on, it's nice that the solar plants and the wind plants, it's nice that they are generating some energy. But the fact of the matter is that with you taking away what's supplying the amount of energy that we're currently using, you are barely, not even, and I'm being generous, right? Because we know that the solar and the wind farms that we have and their planning are not even remotely enough to support the energy use that we had 10 years ago, more or less today, when everything's electric. So we need to be talking about this. Where is our energy stockpile? You know, what's the status of our transmission lines? You know, what are we doing about those things? And the answer to that, people, the answer is, if you care about the environment, if you want to go net zero, if you want to decarbonize, if you want to do all of these things and power everything more towards a better, brighter future of tomorrow, we need to go nuclear. It's the nuclear solution, everybody. But nobody wants to talk about that anymore. You know, it's funny because places like the Sierra Club, which is a green organization, thankfully the Sierra Club is more green still and more environmental than they are greenie, because the greenies are really what the problem is. So I'm really thankful for that. I just hope that they go back to supporting nuclear openly. And places like Greenpeace, which also used to support nuclear. So can we talk about that too? You know, that would be something very interesting. We're here in Rochester, in upstate New York. We're about, I don't know, and maybe 14, 20 miles as the crow flies, you know, from Ghanaian nuclear plant. We've had a nuclear plant here since before I've been born. You know, longer than I've been alive, times probably 2, almost 3 times, you know. But we don't talk about that, and it's right here. It's in our backyard. You can go drive less than 30 minutes and you'll be there. Like, this is real. Like, this is real energy that's being supplied right in our backyard. But we can't have a serious conversation about nuclear energy to power our future. Why not? Why isn't that part of the conversation? And we're talking about a nuclear reactor that's back from the day, not even remotely as energy efficient, as energy producing, as the new nuclear sites and the new nuclear technology that we have. Can we talk about that? Can we have a real conversation? Because me, myself, I'm an environmental conservationist, but I get really ticked off by a lot of these green groups because they push all of this greeny nonsense instead of anything about the environment. And nobody wants to talk about it, but the second that I talk about it with any of these greeny groups, they get upset. Oh, that's not important. Oh, we should only be focusing on that. Who told you that? Who told you that? Who decided that for everyone? Why is that the thing? Oh, we need to decarbonize. Why? Why do we need to decarbonize? Who told you that? Who has convinced you of that? What does that even mean? What does decarbonizing mean? Can somebody explain that to me? So, does somebody know what decarbonizing means? Because to everybody, it seems that it means something different to everybody else. Nobody really knows. We've got Monroe County. In Monroe County, which is a county that I live in, they say that and in relation to the city specifically, they say that the largest generator of carbon is buildings. Buildings? Explain that to me. How are the buildings the largest generator of carbon? How is that possible? Buildings are inanimate objects. They don't grow. They don't make anything. They just exist. They sit and they mind their business, right? So it can't possibly be the buildings that are generating carbon, because inanimate objects don't produce anything unless it's radioactive decay. So since that's not what's going on, you're telling me that they're producing carbon. Okay, so well, what does that mean? Where is it coming from? Where's the carbon coming from? Are you talking about, well, they're cooking with the 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 natural gas? Well, but what is the makeup of natural gas? Flames. Is the carbon coming from the flames of the natural gas? Like, what are you saying? Like, what is this? And then if it is the natural gas, so then it's the natural gas. It's not actually the buildings. But you're telling me it's the buildings. Is it the people? Must be the people, because the people breathe out carbon, right? The people aren't inanimate. The people are living objects, and they breathe out carbon. So if the carbon is coming from the buildings, it must be coming from the people's mouths. Because who is out here using wood stoves like that anymore? Nobody? Nobody. You gotta be in the forest for that. Okay, I know some of you guys listening are rural, are the rural suburbanites that have, your nice wood stove heater or pellet heater, in your basement or whatever, or you might be a little more rural than that. But let's be real, right? Nowadays, in common era, that's few and far between. It's not a lot. But they're telling me that in the city that all of the carbon is coming from the buildings. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Are the lights in the building producing the carbon? Is the building breathing, inhaling and exhaling carbon? Where is this carbon coming from? You're the carbon they want to eliminate, people. Can we wake up? Let's be really serious. Plants need carbon to grow. If you know anything about agriculture, and I know a good amount about agriculture, I love agriculture because I like food. I want to make sure that I'm able to eat. So I'll tell you this about agriculture and very large agricultural operations, especially ones that are you'd consider to be greenhouse type. A lot of them, they pump in carbon dioxide into them so that the plants grow bigger, so that they can more efficiently grow, because plants need carbon to grow. We are a carbon-based organism, humans. You know what else is carbon-based? Literally every other creature that's alive in existence, including plants. So we live on a planet that is carbon-based for its life forms. So if you're talking about cutting down on carbon, what are you really talking about? You want to tell me you want to cut down on car exhaust? I hear you. I understand. It makes sense to me. You want to tell me that you want to cut down on coal plants? I'd say you sound crazy, because we live in New York and we don't do coal plants here. You sound crazy. But we do sometimes pump energy from Pennsylvania, which does use some coal plants, because we shut down our nuclear plants in New York City at Indian Point and some of the other ones throughout the state. But we can't have that conversation, because that honestly makes too much sense. And if it makes sense, it must make dollars. So we can't actually talk about that, because why would they want you as an individual to be able to actually save dollars? They don't. They want to make it so if you are are listening to this and you're a member of the working class, the whole concept around this whole greentopia in insanity is that they want to get rid of you. They don't have the same values or concerns that you do. They want to limit how much you can drive, and this is happening, as a matter of fact, in New York City. They've got ultra-low emission zones in the city, and they're calling them something else. I forget what they're calling it. But basically, you got to pay like $20 to drive in parts of Manhattan a day. $20. Now, you're a single parent. You're providing for your children. You got to drive them. You got to drive to go to work. You can't afford an extra $20 a day in New York City, as far as everything else is all expensive and everyone's struggling already. It's insane. And now they're trying to put that into practice on some of the expressways in other states. And soon it'll be here in New York State. I was watching something the other night, or maybe I was reading it, I think. And they're trying to make it 30 cents a mile to ride on the highway. And that's outrageous. That's really, really outrageous. And we need to have that conversation. But the question is, can we honestly have that conversation? Are we doing ourselves a service without having those type of conversations? Can we talk more about vehicles today? you bear with me as we talk more about the government doing crazy things and trying to limit your ability to live as an individual and be prosperous as somebody who is a member of the working class or the working poor, which is the majority of the country, which is largely the majority of Monroe County. Certain company excluded, because we do have some pretty wealthy people here. But the fact of the matter is this. Right now, with them trying to prepare things like shutting down where you can freely ride on a highway or an expressway, we're not talking about a throughway for the state, but like on a highway or an expressway without paying like 30 cents a day, who is that going to impact? That's not going to impact the wealthy. That's not going to impact the person who's already got a ton of money. That's going to affect everyday people. And the people who are pushing for this stuff so hard, who care so much, allegedly, are the people that are really lower upper class and upper middle class, because the upper middle class are pretending to care about this because they've been told that they should care about this. And the upper lower class just see this as a way that they can make themselves seem more, what's the word, conscious of what's going on in the world, even though this isn't really that big of a thing, but they're trying to make it into it. And meanwhile, the people that are hurt are the middle class, the lower middle class, and those who are in poverty. But we can't have those type of conversations. Nobody really wants to have those real conversations when we need to be having these conversations before they come up as problems. Can we talk about this Kia nonsense with all of the Kia and Hyundai vehicles being stolen? Oh man, let me not get into that too far, right? Because then we really might be talking something, because here's the deal. 2026, let me see, there's two things. So there's 20, and I want to get the years right. I want to say they're both 2026, but one might be 2025, so you got to forgive me. Go look it up. Go look it up. I'm about to tell you, go look it up, though. You got to look up what New York State is doing, and the country, where they're forcing these breathalyzers to be in all vehicles. So you have to have a breathalyzer in your car, in all vehicles, which is insane because that's going to add extra cost to the car, but it gives the government also the ability to shut off your car, which is considered to be a kill switch, which is actually a separate bill, a separate part of a separate bill. These are two separate things, but they kind of flow together. And if you read the wording, they kind of go together too. We need to be having these conversations, but I bet you most of you guys listening out there didn't know that that was happening. We had Thomas Massey, Representative Thomas Massey, just the other day proposed on the floor of Congress that they take out the funding for that program for the government kill switches for all vehicles. So it's interesting that all of a sudden these Kias that don't have these extra advanced features for them to be able to automatically shut down your vehicle, but they're young enough vehicles and popular enough vehicles that they'll still be around and in use because Kia and Hyundai make reliable cars when this stuff starts to happen, and the government will not be able to free willingly shut down your vehicle. It's interesting that those are the cars that are the ones that are getting stolen, that have a thing on the internet that shows you how to shut down the vehicles. It's interesting. And I could say and start talking about, oh, well, the government does all of these crazy programs to try to do things to hurt American people, and the CIA this, and the FBI that, and the ATF this, and the rest of the alphabet agencies, and the this department and the that department. I could say any number of things about those type of things and say, hey, this kind of makes it seem like maybe they might actually would probably possibly do something like that. But I'm not going to say that they're doing something like that. I'm just laying out the case here that this is a thing that seems to be happening at an interesting timing when this is also going on. And it's probably something that if we are American citizens and we know the history of our government, should actually look into. Because let's be honest, a large portion of people right now are liberal leftists, and they say that the government is racist, and it hates black people, and it hates poor people, and it hates minorities, and it hates gay people, right? This is what the left believes. This is what they preach every single day. And this is what they talk about continuously. So if they're talking about this, then they must believe it because they're out there on the streets protesting these things. So if they believe it, how far-fetched is it for them to believe that the government would do something like this to harm its people? Oh, oogity boogity, that must be some sort of a conspiracy. Well, if you look at the definition of what a conspiracy is, it's only three or more people gathered together to create any type of a plan. They actually charge people on the state level and on the federal level with conspiracy. Remember, they tried to charge Donald J. Trump for conspiracy. Remember that. And I don't want to talk about him too much right now, but that's something that we need to be thinking about, because you try to make the word conspiracy like it's a bad word, but you are the same people that tell me that the government hates me as a black man. You're the same people that tell me that the government hates gay people. You're the same people that tells me that the government hates minorities, that they hate all these other people. So why wouldn't I possibly believe that the government would actively be doing something in the disinterest of the people? And that's just on the left side, right? I'm drinking some water. If you don't drink water, stay hydrated. So as I'm saying, and that's just the left side, right? Let's go to the right side. So the people on the right believe that the government is too big, too onerous, and is always doing things to disservice the American people because they're too big for their britches, and they're only self-serving elites that only care about themselves and not the people. So, I mean, hey, far be it for me to say that they're right about the government. Maybe the right is right about the government. Maybe the left is right about the government. Maybe they're both shockingly right about the government. The government doesn't like the citizenry. They don't care about the people, and the government only cares about themselves, and they will do things to purposefully harm the people. It's amazing that both the left and the right agree on that, but we can't have that conversation. And we can't come to the common understanding that expanding the government is probably not a good thing, especially giving the government more power than they should have, like, for instance, getting rid of the Second Amendment and trying to make it so that the government, which you're telling me hates me and is oppressive and does things against me, should be the people with the firearms, and I shouldn't have a firearm to protect myself from them. Listen at how you sound. Listen at how you sound. See, it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. It's very, very interesting. As we go along this path and this journey together today, I'd like to remind you that me, myself, I consider myself an American. I consider myself a patriot, and I care about my country. But one thing that I've seen over the last couple of days is a whole bunch of people running raw riot throughout our country, throughout our, what do you call it, throughout our capital. I guess you would say the place that houses our republic, or democracy, right? But we're not actually a democracy. We're a representative republic, or a constitutional republic, if you prefer. But we're not a democracy. We never have been a democracy because it is not ruled by the masses. It is ruled by elected officials who are supposed to represent the independent individuals of their constituency, and it is not complete mob rule. But vastly, people are telling you, whether they're on the right or the left, that we are a democracy, and we've never been a democracy. As a matter of fact, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Locke, what do you call it, Paine, even Washington, and a number of the other founding fathers all warned us about the dangers of possibly becoming a democracy. And what's it called? Benjamin Franklin famously came out of the signing of the Constitution, and they said, well, what type of government do we have? And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. So that's something that we really need to have on our minds, and we really need to be thinking about, that we've been lied to by our elected officials, by people who are politicians for years on just the form of government that we have. Just a form of government. It's the greatest lie ever told to the American people, that America is a democracy. We've never been a democracy. We have a Bill of Rights and a Constitution specifically laid out saying that we're not a democracy. But all these politicians run raw riot and say that we are. Now, I'm rather young and I don't know when this happened exactly, but as I watch old catalog videos from old speeches and old elected politicians and stuff like that, they don't refer to America as a democracy. They refer to it as a republic, our republic, the republic, blah, blah, blah. But now, just recently, and I don't know when this happened, maybe within my lifetime, maybe during the last 50-ish years, it started to change where more and more people would say, we're a democracy, we're a democracy, we're a democracy. Now it's so stuck in everybody's head that we're a democracy that you can't even tell somebody that we're a republic. Go look it up. We're a republic. 100% we're a republic. And then you'll say, oh, well, we're a republic that's kind of like a democracy. No, that's not how that works. That's not how it works. It's the same way that you say that the European are not. They're not. They're not socialists. Most of them are monarchies, the ones that you identify as being socialist. So it's crazy. Are you saying that you want to be like these socialist European nations, which are really monarchies? So you want a king and a queen or a queen for America? But that's what a large portion of the people on the left are pushing for. They're pushing for complete authoritarian, dictatorial, tyrannical rule by our government, which they tell me is oppressive to people that are like me. You make that make sense to me. You make it make sense. And that's something that we need to have a conversation about. And here we are at the top of the hour on The Divide on WRFZ, Rochester Free Radio, 106.3 FM. It is 3 o'clock here, and you're listening to Marcus C. Williams filling in for Brian over here at The Divide. Thank you for listening so far, and we're about to hop right back into it. But do make sure that you call Mac Remodel and Repair if you need any assistance or if you need something fixed, because they'll take care of you. For free estimates, call 802-0757. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me so far today. As we continue down this path together, as we talk about the serious issues currently facing our nation and the direction forward on how we can improve them, which is coming up here soon, we really have to be cognizant of the actual form of government that we have. But more than that, we need to be understanding of the fact that our elected officials are supposed to represent us. You understand what I'm saying? So if our representatives are supposed to represent us, but they don't, there is a disconnect between the average common citizen and our elected officials. And that, my friends, is a very, very hairy and very serious problem. So, as we talk about this, I want to start off with elections that we just had last Tuesday. So, November 7th was the elections for many parts of the country. We had a extremely terrible, horrible, no good turnout in Rochester and Monroe County. I'm not sure exactly what the turnout was altogether at the end of it when they counted up everything, but we're looking at probably about maybe 30%. Maybe 30%. I think the city of Rochester turned out maybe about 20%. Maybe we're like 19%, maybe. But now your question is, well, Marcus, why is turnout so low? Why is turnout so low? You guys, didn't you hear me? If you're just tuning in, I'm going to reference something I just talked about. So you guys, if you were listening earlier, we talked about how people just have forgotten that our government is supposed to represent we the people. But more than that, they've been told by the left and by the right that the government hates them, the government is doing everything it can to hold them down, that the government doesn't care about them, And this is the message coming from both parties again and again and again and again. And this is something serious that we need to be able to talk about. But can we even talk about that is the real question. Can we talk about that? If the government is so bad, if the government is so terrible, we need to be changing the way that the government works. But it seems that both sides want to increasingly empower the government, whether it's on the local, state, or federal level. Why? Why do you guys seek to give the government so much power over your lives and over your everyday dealings? Is this not the government that has let inflation run rampant? When you go to the store, is food not outrageous in cost? You know, I was reading something the other day. It said that food costs have risen 20%. 20% for food costs. Has your paycheck risen 20%? No, of course it hasn't. But more than your paycheck, and paycheck be damned, right? Has the value of your dollar increased 20%? Because that's really what the problem is that we need to be talking about is the value of the dollar and this inflation creation monster that has been made by the Federal Reserve, which isn't even a part of our federal government, but somehow it's called the Federal Reserve, and it's private bank money. It's their own money. They're their own bank. And starting this year, they won't be taxed, or maybe it's in the beginning of next year, March next year. Doesn't matter. Soon, they won't even be taxed on any of their earnings. Somebody make that make sense to me. So they're not part of our government. They make all this money. They steal our money. They devalue our dollar. And now they're not even going to have to pay any type of taxes on that. Are you serious? Now, I'd like to give you guys a little brief history lesson, but I don't know if you guys remember the Boston Tea Party, right? Like you might have heard about it, right? That was over taxes. We didn't like the tax on tea. Now, at the time, and this is crazy to you guys, I'm sure it'll be. At the time, we were only paying like 3% taxes, less than 3% taxes. And we went to war against the greatest empire of the time with the largest, most equipped army and navy in the world. Over 3% tax. Oh my goodness, people. Right now, we are being taxed through our nose, through our behind, through our eyes, and any other orifices that you have. You know, you are being taxed through. We are paying over 50% tax on every dollar that we make. Then don't include sales tax or estate tax or planning tax or this tax or that tax or business tax or tax. Can we talk about that? No, we can't talk about that because if we talk about that, that would be having a real conversation. And that will be about the way and direction that our country is going. And we just had another rise in electric and gas prices in Rochester area because of all of these greenies. The greenies have pushed us off of natural gas and pushed them to shut down natural gas pipelines that they're building and push this and push that and da 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 da. And now you can't afford to heat your house in the winter and your children might freeze. But what are the greenies doing about that? Do they care? No. And you'll say, well, Marcus, you're being a lot of it. But I'm not being a lot of it because we have these examples already. Look at California. They shut down almost all of their nuclear plants, right? But when they started to shut down their nuclear plants, they were like, wait a second, we can't shut down the nuclear plants because the energy that's being produced by the solar and by the wind, you know, California's all nice and bright, right? And they're all super leftist liberal. So they've got all the solar panels and all of the wind turbines, and they can't even power their own state. They get a lot of their energy from Nevada. But we're not going to talk about that, are we? Okay, so we've already seen with all of these electrical, speaking of which, before I jump into that, I'd like to remind you, if you're local, that the opt-out day for the new smart meters for RG&E and Avangrid and other companies is going to be November 17th. So please put in your opt-out form. They say that they will charge you $10 more a month, but I promise you, after I finish this, you'll understand why it's very important that you do not do that outside of some other things, which I'm not going to cover on this thing today. But in California, for instance, they just shut off your electricity whenever they want to, willy-nilly, with a flick of a switch, because they've all got smart meters out there. They've all got smart meters. Same thing in Colorado. They've all got smart meters. So they'll shut it off when they feel like it. In Colorado, as a matter of fact, I want to say it was the year before last, they shut down a large portion of the electricity when it was snowing out for their people. When it was snowing and the people were freezing cold. And they shut their energy off because, oh, we're pulling too much energy because we're not producing enough energy because, we shut down our natural gas and other stuff to actually power our stuff, and we're only working off of wind and solar, which we don't have batteries to use to actually make it work, which we don't actually, even if we had the batteries, it would be way more expensive, and then the cost would be passed on to you, and everything would be more expensive anyway, even though it's more expensive now. If you thought you saw something expensive, you ain't seen nothing yet. Just wait, and in the meantime, you're going to freeze. You're going to freeze. That's what they did. They just shut off people's electric and gas. And this is a problem. Well, not the gas, but they shut off their electric. And they just automatically shut off a flick of a button, like a snap of the fingers. So now California, for instance, and this is great too, and I encourage you to go look it up because the whole story behind it is just so insane. So because of the shortfall of electricity in California, because they're trying to stop all their traditional ways that they've made energy for forever, and they're trying to go to all wind and solar, which they can't even produce enough there, which they need to just use their nuclear plants. So with all of that going on there, California had massive blackouts and brownouts and other issues. And one time, almost most of California ended up having a blackout. And we're talking about maybe a year ago, might be 2 years ago. But the only thing powering the actual energy there was the nuclear plants, which was crazy. Which I want to say, and you can look this up and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm saying this from memory, which was providing more than 33% of the energy to California. And actually, that might be how much they provide in total. So I don't know how much at the time. I guess they were providing almost 100%. So, but that's a whole nother conversation. But when all the electric goes off because there's no wind or there's no solar or there's not enough backup batteries, what will we use? I guess nuclear energy, right? But with the governor over there in California, he's got it where if he tells the companies that they're having an issue with not having enough energy, that all of the energy companies will just shut off your electricity like snap. And it's very interesting that they can have this power, but they have this power because all the people have smart meters. Again, you should opt out from having a smart meter. The last day to do that is November 17th. So that is coming up at the end of this week. So definitely opt out because it's an opt-out situation, not opt-in, which should be terrifying to everybody as they continue to move and push for digitalization. Also, if they're a smart meter, who's paying for the electric for that smart meter to run? I guess you're paying for them to have a smart meter at your house, but you're also paying them to run the smart meter. But it also enables them to shut down your energy willy-nilly whenever they feel like it. Just like in California, as I get back to the story there, just like in California, the governor was like, we're having a heavy energy load. We might have to shut down the electric. So what some of the energy providers heard were, shut down the electric. So what did the energy providers do? They shut down the electric. And what happened? Hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions, I can't remember, but hundreds of thousands at least, were without energy. Okay? Because the governor said maybe we might have to shut down the electric because we don't have enough. Now that just sounds crazy to us, right? Because of where we are, we haven't had those issues. But if we do continue down the line that we're going with all this greeny insanity of wind and solar, because there aren't other options out there, right? Like we can't talk about hydrogen, we can't talk about LNG, we can't talk about fusion, we can't talk about fission. You'll say, well, Marcus, fusion and fission, and is that even real stuff anymore? Well, I mean, we really need to talk about thermonuclear, and I'm not talking about bombs that go boom, okay? we've got all of this advanced technology, which the greenies love to harp on. Oh, technology, technology, but you don't talk about the scientific technology as far as small modular nuclear reactors. If we had those, we'd be able to power our whole city with just 2 or 3 very small units that we could fit in small areas of the city. And we could power the whole city. Hell, we might even be able to power the whole county just from a few of them. Like, we're not being real. And you'll say, well, Marcus, don't they poison the environment? No, they don't. As a matter of fact, the stuff that they produce, not only does it not cause an issue for the environment, but we've got the technology. And Andrew Yang actually talked about this during his campaign when he was running for president last time. And I was very thankful that he was talking some actual sense at the time. Since then, the Forward Party has turned crazy socialist, and it's a problem. It's not forward anymore, it's regressive. But he was talking about how we have the nuclear reactors that we can use all of the nuclear fuel and even spent fuel from old nuclear projects until it's completely inert and is no longer giving off any radiation of any level that would even be able to harm bugs, more or less people. So we really need to be having these conversations, but we're not. We're not having these conversations. So when California shut down all of the energy because they thought that they heard the governor says, shut down all the energy. And then there was a big debacle in California over that because the energy companies were like, well, the governor told us to shut it down. The governor was like, I didn't say that. I don't know why you did that. And then the people were like, you shut off our electricity. And everybody was blaming everybody else. But nobody took responsibility for what actually happened. And it'll happen again. It'll happen again. But it just shows you how the governor can just shut down your electric if they don't want you to have it. And that is a very serious problem. You know, they try to tell you now that housing is a right. So if housing is a right, why isn't gas and electric and energy a right also? I mean, especially if you're paying for it, you should be able to get it, right? Like, can we talk about that? Everybody should have access to energy. Can we talk about that? No. Because the wealthy will always be able to get more access to more things, and they won't have a problem paying an extra 30 cents to ride on the highway or to ride on a what do you call it, expressway or anything like that. But you'll have to pay more out of your pocket. And New York State is definitely for sure working on that. And we're not having these serious conversations about this that we need to. We're not. And our elected officials who are supposed to represent us, daggone sure, aren't having these conversations with us. They're having them with each other on how they're going to use it to stomp us down into the dirt even further. Because like the left says, the government hates us. Like the right says, the government hates us. Well, Sugar Cracker Krispies, maybe, just maybe, the government doesn't have the best interests of its constituents at heart. And we need to start replacing some of these elected officials, or maybe even a lot of these elected officials. But more than anything, we need to start slimming down our government, especially the federal government. Especially the federal government. The federal government has ballooned in the last 3 decades in the number of offices, in the number of agencies, in the number of people working for it. But can you see any discernible increase in the quality of life provided by the government in the last 30 years? You know, just in my short lifetime, everything seems to have gone backwards and gotten worse. I just don't see any benefit to the continued expansion of the government. You know, our founding fathers warned us about the continued expansion of the government and to keep it small. But now it's become such a giant bureaucracy that it's self-feeding, and we've got people in there that have been in there forever that have built up their own little private kingdoms and fiefdoms, and they control everything in the government, no matter who's the president. So everybody gets so concerned about who the president is, and really what we need to be concerned of is who are these department heads? Who are these department directors? Who are the ones writing the policies for these directors and for these people? But again, These are conversations that we're not actually having when we need to be having these conversations. Can we have these conversations? Please, like seriously. We need to have these conversations. And that goes back into the fact of why everybody doesn't feel like voting. Because why would you want to vote if everything that for all your whole life you've seen is basically America's going backwards, the world is in upheaval? Why even bother voting? It's the end of times. That's what I go to these churches. I go to church, I go to my church, I go to other churches. Everybody's like, it's the end of the world. If it's the end of the world, why should I even bother voting? Why? Why would I bother voting if it's the end of the world? So if you ask me, and I am Christian, proudly so, I'd encourage you guys to come out to my church, Bible Baptist Temple, open every Sunday. Okay, come on out. 10 a.m. we start Bible study. 11:30 is service. So come on down for 10:30 is service. I said that wrong. Anyway, just come down regardless. I don't know. I'm usually there from like 10 to like 12. Anyway. So definitely, it's not the end of the world, even though everybody else preaches that. I won't preach that. You won't hear me preach that because I don't believe it's the end of the world. It's a lie. And all it is a discouragement, right? And that's what I believe it is. I believe that it's a grand discouragement. They're just trying to make it look like it's the end of the world. So you think that it's the end of the world, so you don't fight or push back. And if you read Thessalonians, if you read Revelations, it actually tells you to fight back and stand up and push back even harder when it is actually the end of times. But it also tells us that it's not the end of times until the Antichrist shows himself in the church and says that he is better than God. You know, and that hasn't happened yet, so it's very clearly not the end times. It's very laid out in the Bible, so can we please stop saying that it is the end of times? And people say, oh, well, it's really close to the end of times. It's been really close to the ends of times since Jesus died and was resurrected. Can we be real honest here? It's been close. But when people preach stuff like that, it doesn't serve to benefit people. It serves to push people away and make them more docile and not want to stand up. We're not encouraging people to actually stand up and to push back against the evil and the negativity and the elites that are doing a disservice to us as a whole. People aren't saying that. And that's why nobody wants to get out to vote. You want to know why people don't want to vote? Because they've lost all hope. Because they've lost the feeling that they can actually do anything or be empowered to do anything, which goes into another great lie. You have to hold your elected officials accountable on election day. Bogus. Should you? Absolutely. Definitely get out and vote. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't even eat Skittles, but if Skittles has a new flavor to vote on, I'm going to vote on the Skittles flavor too. Because too many people have died. We just had Veterans Day the other day. And Veterans Day is when we celebrate our veterans that are alive, which apparently Joe Biden didn't realize, okay, which I'm not even going to get into talking about him right now. But that's something that a lot of our people in America don't realize is the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Veterans Day is for the people that are alive. Memorial Day is for the people that have died. Okay, but regardless, our soldiers that have served and those that have died for our rights, died for our freedoms, died for our liberties, and we need to make sure that we're honoring their sacrifice by us going out and voting every single time. Well, but Marcus, the election is corrupt, the officials are corrupt, the government hates us and everything. So what? So what? Are you going to go fly off a bridge tomorrow? Because if you're not going to go fly off a bridge tomorrow, I don't want to hear it. Get your behind out and go vote. But more so than that, more so than voting, what you really need to do is you need to be figuring out who is your elected officials that represent you. Who is your city council person or your town council person? Who is your mayor or your town supervisor? Who is your, what do you call them? Who is your county legislator? Who is your county executive? Who is your state assembly person? Who is your state senator? These are the people that you need to know. Who's your federal senator? Who's your congressperson? You know, everybody gets caught up, oh, the president doesn't control jack duty squat. Are we being real with ourselves right now? President doesn't control anything. The president is very little more than a figurehead and a mouthpiece, you know, which is a whole separate conversation that we probably need two whole different days to talk about that about. But we need to really honestly start holding our elected officials accountable. I'll give you a great point. So recently, I want to give a shout out to Rock Unite, which is an organization that actually is working to change policy and legislation surrounding the bill reform and raise the age laws. So check them out. You can go to rockunite.com or restorerochester.com. That's restorerochester.com. Check them out and pitch in, join up. Because what they're doing is they're working to hold the elected officials on the state level accountable for the laws that have to do with allowing these criminal terrorists to run around our streets, just carjacking old ladies. And the other day, they lumped up an old dude who was going to the mailbox. He's an 83-year-old man, and 3 people jumped on an old guy who was going to the mailbox, the post box. You know, the little blue boxes that nobody really uses except the old people? Those people, they jumped on this old 83-year-old man. Now that poor man's going to be scared for the rest of his life, and so are all the elderly people in his area. What in the world is going on? These people need to be behind bars, okay? But we can't lock them up because no matter how many times that they perform crimes. And that's a serious, serious issue, and we need to talk about it. But we can't talk about it because they'll tell you bill reform is great and raise the age is great, and these are great laws. You say, well, Marcus, what's raise the age laws? Raise the age laws are simple. It basically makes it so anybody under the age of 18 is considered a juvenile, no matter how serious or severe the crime is, no matter if they robbed an armored truck, no matter if they shot somebody in the face, no matter if they set somebody on fire, which we've had all of these things happen, no matter if they burnt a man alive, you know, no matter if they ran into your house and shot your child and then left, you know, they'd still be considered a juvenile, no matter what they did. And these are all, everything that I just named is something that has happened in the city of Rochester. So it's not like I'm pulling this out of my nose here. And that's what basically the raise the age laws do. Now, what do the bail reform laws do? Basically, they allow all the criminals to get out on without any bail and get out on appearance tickets. So you'll say, well, Marcus, that's mainly the judge's responsibility. Anybody that says that it's the judge's responsibility is doing you a disservice by telling you that, okay? Because remember what the judge's role is. The judge's role is to uphold the law. So if the law says that they have to put them in jail, then they have to put them in jail. If it says that they don't have to put them in jail, then they don't have to put them in jail. If our problem is them getting out of jail, and the law doesn't say that they need to be in jail, then the problem is not the judges, it's the law. But it's also the political parties that are backing these judges, namely the Democrat Party, and y'all need to get y'allself together. I'm not a Democrat, so that's me talking directly to all my Democrat friends and y'all that I love. Y'all need to fix this sugar cracker Krispies because it's all of your people that have pushed for these laws that are destroying impoverished and underserved communities and the middle class communities. And there's these people that are so gun-ho Democrats that refuse to even talk about the serious issues of the crime, and they'll get online and they'll make jokes about it. Oh, ha ha ha, it's funny. Ha 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 ha. It's not a real problem. Ha 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 ha. It's not a problem at all. We had Will Cleveland, who was on the PAB the other day, just talking about how there was a subreddit on making a joke about that. And you know, the terrifying thing there was he didn't take it that seriously. He thought it was funny. I didn't think it was funny, so I said something about it to him. And now remember, he's on the Police Accountability Board, the We Hate Police people. So he's on there. So it's nothing but a bunch of group of people that hate the police. And he's making light of this, which is making light of the issues that we have in my community, in my neighborhood on a daily basis, in the neighborhood, in the radio station that I'm broadcasting on right now. Okay? Are we being real? Like, I'm not far. I can look out the window. Not right here because of the way the building is built. But I can look out the window and I can spit and hit Van Acker. Okay? I can hit the projects from right here. This is real stuff that people, that impacts us every day in life. Like, this is serious. And these people just laugh and think that it's a game. And it's not a game, man. This is real life. This is real everyday life. And this is what we're experiencing. We're experiencing this crime. This is real. We should not have to deal with it. Our state assembly people don't seem to give a good golly gosh. Our state senators, maybe don't give a care really, but Jeremy Cooney so let me go back a step. So Rock Unite, the group that I was telling you about that pushes for policy changes and legislation change, was able to get Jeremy Cooney to put forth a Senate Bill S7715, which makes it so that you can possibly, and I'm using these words very seriously, can possibly hold somebody that's caught with stolen property, no matter what type of stolen property it is, or illegal firearms. I'm not 100% all over and gushing with this particular bill, but it is a start, and we do need a start. This is a small start. The problem is it doesn't address that the majority of these crimes are being committed by people who are considered juvenile under the raised to age laws. And the other additional issue with that is when you have these type of laws, if they're a juvenile and they go to court, they're going to family court. When they go to family court because they're considered a juvenile, their record gets sealed and expunged. So that means that if they get caught with another crime in another 2 weeks and they go back to court, basically it's like this is their first offense and nothing ever happened before. And this is the time in which we're living in. You know, no repercussions, no issues, what do you call them? No repercussions, no punishments, nothing for these people. So they continue to get more and more bold and more empowered, and they're out here robbing and mugging people, and they're terrorizing the communities. And it's going out into nicer and nicer neighborhoods. We just saw on Monroe Avenue last week, 3 people were strong-armed robbers. 3 people got strong-armed robberies, not armed robberies, strong-armed, like they got mugged, like straight mugged. 3 people on Monroe in one night. And it's not even all the other armed robberies and car thefts and home break-ins and all of this stuff and all of that stuff. But we can't talk about that because people don't actually want to talk about that because they prefer to pretend that it doesn't exist. And it does exist. But like I said, the group Rock Unite has actually been fighting very hard to actually change the laws, and they're starting to get some headway. So definitely check them out. Go to restorerochester.com. That's restorerochester.com, and sign up so that you can be a part of what's going on and the actions that are being taken to actually hold our elected officials accountable. Because it's going to be, at the end of the day, up to you, because it's not just at the day of the election that you hold elected officials accountable. It's when they're in office. Because once they're in office, they need to remember that they work for you. They do not work for themselves. They work for you. If it wasn't for you, they, 1, wouldn't be in office, and 2, wouldn't have a paycheck. But can we have that serious conversation? That's the real question that we need to be asking. What can we do as citizens to actually stand up and push back against the insanity that's actually going on in our country at this time? That's what we need to be doing. That's what we need to be talking about. But we're not talking about these things. And the fact of the matter is that the onus is on us. How do you say that? That the responsibility is on us as individuals to actually stand up and say, we see what's wrong, and it's up to you as elected officials to change it, and we demand that you change it. But they're not doing enough. Here, I'm going to read this to you. This is the subreddit. It says, if you want to know, is the area safe? So this is what it says. It says, and this is in the food section, so this is funny. It says, no, the area of Rochester, it says no, like the word no, N-O. No area of Rochester is safe for you. I'm going to steal your Kia, eat your garbage plate, and vandalize your lawn with union support signs. My advice is to move to Ithaca, a safe space where you can vote for Claudia Tenney and report on Nextdoor about seeing a person of color. Right? So this nonsense was said, and then another person chimed in and they said, I get stabbed every time I cross the 390-590 border. I'm actually getting stabbed right now, and my Kia is getting stolen, and I don't even own a Kia. Erg. And then somebody else says, I'm from Greece, and I got stabbed with my own Hyundai Tucson. So, and this is what Will Cleveland posted, and he said, Rochester Reddit sometimes rules, like implying that this was funny and this was a good thing. Like, how insulting is this to all of the victims that have been actually hurt by the crime in our city and throughout the greater Rochester area? The one person said they're from Greece, and Greece, let's talk about Greece. Greece is one of the few suburbs that actually talks a little bit about their crime. And they're constantly posting, this was stolen, that was stolen, somebody tried to steal this person got hit, whatever that happened. They're actually doing a pretty decent job at some of that versus other parts of our surrounding suburbs that don't even say it at all because they don't want people to think that something's negative is happening. But we need to be having these serious conversations, and we need to be holding our elected officials accountable, because if we do not, nobody is going to. Nobody is going to. It's up to us, 100% up to us. We have to make sure that we are the ones who are holding our elected officials accountable. And that's why I'm so thankful for Rock Unite and everything that they're doing. And again, you can check them out. It's rockunite.com, or go to restororochester.com. That's restororochester.com. It's a great group. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a part of it. It's actually a group that's working hard to make a difference and actually push for change in our community. And we need more of those types of groups to actually start standing up. I'm glad that we've at least got this one on this specific topic. But it's really kind of awesome that there are people that see the need to start standing up and speaking up, because that's how we're going to get the difference made that we need to. Let's go back to the election results real quick. So, and not even the election results, but the turnout. So the turnout in Monroe County was abysmal, beyond terrible. Like I said, we've got all types of issues going on. One of the largest ones is crime. So the question is, if Republicans are the party of law and order and public safety, how come Republicans didn't come out to vote, right? Like, whenever I talk to a Republican, they're like, oh, everything is terrible, I hate it, da 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 da. Did you vote? Did you vote? Because it looks like nobody voted. No, it looks like no Republicans voted. What's up with that? Are you just giving up so much? And then you look at the Democrats and you're like, the Democrats, what's up? And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to vote because nothing's going to change anyway. And that's what everybody feels. Nothing's going to change, so nobody does anything, so nothing ever changes. And this is a very, very, very serious issue. And if we're going to do something, if we're going to change what's going on in our local area, even just Monroe County, just Rochester, New York, if we want to see a difference made, we have to do two big things. The first thing is understand what each level of government does. So what does your city council or town council person do? What does your actual mayor do, or your town supervisor? Okay, these positions, you have to know what these people do. You got your county executive and your county legislature. What do those people do? And we've got our state assembly and our state senators. What do those people do? You got to figure out what each person does as far as their role in government, so you know who to hold accountable for what issue. I go to a lot of county meetings or city council meetings, and whenever I go there, they're always yelling at somebody about the wrong thing for the wrong person. And I'll give you a great example. Rochester is a great example because everybody yells at Mayor Malik Evans right now. Oh, he's this, oh, he's that. And I'm like, because the crime, mainly. But I'm like, listen, the mayor couldn't do anything if he even wanted to, because it's not him that's in control of the laws that are allowing the criminals to run wild. That's your state assembly person. That's your state senator. So in Rochester and the surrounding area, we got a couple. We got two senators. We got Summer Brooke and we got Jeremy Cooney. Those are our two state senators for the area. And depending on where you live, you'll have one of a few different what do you call them, state assembly people. You might have Demond Meeks, who is mine. You might have Sarah Clark, Jen Lunsford, Harry Bronson. You might have one of them. Um, and that's in the greater Rochester area immediately. There are some other ones for like farther out in Monroe, Monroe County, but those are the ones that cross through the city and most of the county. But we got to know who these people are so we can go to their offices, have meetings, and say, hey, look, we've got these serious issues. What are you going to do about it? Like city council affects different things in the city. If it's an actual responsibility that's part of the city council, that's their job. We got to hold them accountable for it. But we shouldn't be going to the city council yelling at the city council people about stuff that's the state level. We shouldn't be going to the county ledge yelling at the people at the county ledge for stuff that is the city council's issue. We shouldn't be yelling at the mayor for stuff that's the governor's problem. We shouldn't be yelling at the county executive for stuff that's the mayor's issue. We shouldn't be yelling at either of the other two for stuff that's the county executive's issue. So we have to start understanding who in government does what in government. And until we actually do that, until we actually understand who does what, nothing will change. Nothing will change at all. We can do more as individuals, and we're going to have to do more. I encourage you all, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. On Twitter, I'm Marcus, the number 4, New York. So Twitter, that's Marcus, the number 4, New York. On Instagram, I'm Marcus, the number 4, ROC. And on Facebook, you can find me Marcus C. Williams for Rochester. And then you'll see I got some other Facebook pages too that you can check out, but that's my main one. Marcus C. Williams for Rochester. You'll see me. And you'll also see my other Marcus C. Williams on Facebook. But definitely check me out, follow me. I got some good stuff going on and coming up. And I'm going to make sure that I continue to push forward and fight forward for our community, for our city, and for our county, and honestly, for our country. Because we need people that are true patriots to stand up for our country. We had all these crazies here in Rochester the other weekend marching about free Palestine, waving a foreign country's flags in our city while they're out there trying to tear stuff up and snatch down American flags. That seems like an open declaration of war to me. And when I say it seems like an open declaration of war, it is an open declaration of war. They're destroying property, waving foreign flags, and snatching down American flags. That is a declaration of war. If anyone has ever seen one, they know that it is. And I don't understand how these people aren't being locked up underneath the jail or aren't being carted off to some sort of a military prison somewhere, detention facility. This is outrageous. And they're allowed to continue this forward. Why are we allowing them to propagate this anti-American sentiment, this anti-American hate, and still be able to run around freely in our country, destroying stuff, waving foreign flags? All of them need to be locked up. As a matter of fact, I'll do you one better. Here's my solution to all of these pro-free Palestine people, whatever. Take a C-14, put them on a plane, paradrop them all out of the C-14 into Gaza. Bye. Have a good time. Now you go free Gaza. We'll see how long that lasts. We'll see how long that sentiment lasts. Honestly. If they care so much, let them all go over there. We still got planes that they can go over to Jordan, still has flights. I think some parts of Lebanon still have flights. And Egypt still has flights. So you're more than welcome to leave the country. Okay? Because our country is not actually involved in that. You're mad at Israel? Go be mad at Israel over by Israel. Don't be mad at Israel over here. Leave our American citizens alone. We've got Jewish American citizens. Leave them alone. Why? Because they're here. They're not over there. you're so mad at the people over there, go over there. But you won't go over there because you know that if you go over there, you're going to get your wig cap split back black. Jack, for real. This is the problem. They feel like they're safe over here so they can get away with whatever they want. Like if you saw what they did when, what's the girl swimmer's name? Riley Gaines was, I want to say it was Sacramento, where they locked her in a room and then tried to hold her for ransom. Are you serious? Are you serious? Then we wonder why this happened with these Jewish students where they were locked in a room and they wouldn't let them out. Because we let it happen with Riley. Now they're doing it to the Jewish students. Because you let it go in the first place. These people should have been smack locked down, locked up, put in jail in the first place. These new free pro-Palestine people don't even know what's going on over there. It's been a war for 77 years. You found out about a month ago, and now you're all pro-Palestine? Where you been at? Where you been? Where you been? Where you been? Because you definitely ain't been here talking about it. You ain't been nowhere. Where were you? Where you been? They've been suffering all these years. You ain't been nowhere. You didn't care about them. You probably don't even know where they are on the map still. This is a problem. We saw the same thing happen with Ukraine. Zelensky's over there persecuting Christians, burning down churches, and we're all, yeah, he's super awesome, awesomeness. In a country that openly hates gays. Gaza, Palestine, openly hates gays. And y'all out here talking about transgender LGBTQTRZ for free Palestine. They don't care about you. You'd be the first to go. You'd be the first to go. We got all these angry, half-naked women with all types of tattoos all over their face and piercings out the wazoo, okay, scantily clad. You'd be the first to go. They don't like you. Why are you supporting them? Why? Because you feel that they've been done wrong? Where have you been? 77 years. That's almost 4 times the time I've been alive. Three and some change times I've been alive. So, like, where have you been? This has been going on since before you've been born, since before I've been born. And you're just finding this out now? This is a very, very serious issue that's going on over there. And I hear you that you don't like it, okay? Me personally, who do I support? America. That's who I support. I support America. America first. Stop sending American money to go fund foreign wars. Stop sending American money to go fund forever wars. Stop sending American army people or military or soldiery to foreign countries to fight in foreign wars. Okay? We need to do like George Washington said and mind our daggone business. Okay? And look out for ourselves. We need American first policies. We need American money for American soil. We should not be sending it to any country, whether it's Gaza, Palestine, Hamas, whoever, Hezbollah, whatever, or whether it's Israel. We shouldn't be sending any of that money. We need money. We're broke. Our country is broke. We were just talking earlier about how food is skyrocketing. Look at your gas prices. Look at how much it costs to heat your house. Look at how much rent is going up crazy. Look at the mortgage costs. We don't have the money to be funding anybody in any other country for anything. More or less for war where we're not taking territory to annex to become a state in America. We need to get this together. We really, really do. And we need to make sure that we reprioritize America being America first. And I'm going to say this one more time because I want not to be misheard. Okay, if you're all super pro-Palestine, go over there. Okay, because America ain't got nothing to do with it. Is Israel our ally? 100%. And because Israel is our ally, I support them because they're our ally. Okay, because they're our ally. That's how that works. That's how allyships work. Okay. Do I think that they're the awesomest, the greatest, and they can't ever do anything wrong? Absolutely not. But I understand the point and the principle of military alliances, and you should too. Okay? Because everybody else, every other single country over there wants to see America get wiped off the face of the earth too. And like Iran, who was one of the biggest backers most of the craziness that's going on over there in the Middle East, they openly chant death to America. But somehow Joe Biden sent them $6 billion, which he said that they couldn't access because it's in Qatar waiting for them. But it's actually in Qatar and they can access it and they have accessed it. How about that? American money for American people. Remember, America is the biggest arms dealer on the black market and on the regular market in the world. We're number one. Number two is Russia. Number three is China. So, but we need to have these real conversations, and we're not having them. We need to reprioritize America. Anybody that hates America is welcome to leave. We got all these illegal aliens, many of them that would love to have your citizenship so you can get out. You can get out. You don't like it here? Get out. We got thousands of people flooding through the borders a day, and they need to close these borders down, which is a whole separate conversation for another show. But if you don't like it so much, you can get out. They want to come in. You don't like it, get out. Because they very clearly just traveled through a whole bunch of hardship to try to get here. Not that all of them do, but some of them do. And some of them are sponsored by actual government people and other people, and we're not even going to get into that conversation because we don't have the time. But the fact of the matter is that there are people that do want to be here. And if you don't want to be here, or if you support foreign countries so much, and that's any foreign country, I don't care. If you've got the nerve to wave a foreign country's flag in the streets of America, you can go back to that foreign country. Okay, if you hate America so much. You want to tear down American flags, you want to shout anti-American stuff, you can get out. You can go and let America focus on its own stuff. Because we need to rebuild our stuff for our citizens, whether they're left, right, middle, or don't even participate in government. We need to reprioritize the American citizens and the American citizenry. And that's what I've got for you today. I'm Marcus C. Williams here on Rochester Free Radio, WRFZ 106.3 on the Divide, filling in for Brian. And I'd like you guys to go check out Rock Unite if you're willing to get active and start getting more involved in changing the laws and the policies that are hurting our community, our county, our state, and our country. Marcus C. Williams signing off. You guys be blessed, be well, and stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. Have a good night.
This is Mr. X, host of the Folk Music Hour, Fridays at noon on Rochester Free Radio, 106.3 FM, WRFZ Rochester. This is Mr. X, host of the Folk Music Hour, Fridays at noon on Rochester Free Radio, 106.3 FM, WRFZ Rochester. Trumpeter Radio, who are we? Former military broadcasters on a mission to inform and entertain our communities, veterans, and their families who serve the United States in any and all branches of the service. Why do we do it? To work with
So I pressed the Eye of the Tiger one, but it didn't play the Eye of the Tiger. Well, maybe it'll go through a series of these announcements, and then get, because I know there is Eye of the Tiger. I've had problems with some of these because they're pre-programmed of playing when I don't want them to play. So maybe that's what it is. I can't address that. I would, Brian Judah?
Mhm.
I'd chat with him.
Okay.
He may have
Well, there is solution. I appreciate you.
Thank you, good brother.
How have you been yourself?
Well, I've been fine. Fine and dandy. I presume you have as well.
I have.